You advise people on immigration. What are the common mistakes that people make?
Proving their relationships, to completing the wrong visa applications, to not having the correct supporting documents or not having it in the correct format. So the immigration laws specify what you need to prove for each route that you want to follow here. And people don't always know it. And the Isle of Man's immigration laws aren't the same as the UK immigration laws. They closely resemble one another, but there are some differences that people don't realize, and then they comply with the UK requirements, but not the Isle of Man requirements.
Hello everyone, my name is Victor Walsh Uluwafemi. Welcome to the Isle of Man podcast, Unpacking the Isle of Man. It's a podcast that tells the story of Isle of Man, the quality that we possess, the good thing about us, and we use this platform to interview entrepreneurs, professionals, and government officials to tell us their story about the Isle of Man and how we can add value, and also make it a platform for new people to come to our island. I have my guest, my friend, Francois Jacob, a senior advocate at Kinley Legal. Francois specializes in immigration, probate, wills, and private client matters. He's originally from South Africa and is now a registered legal practitioner and notary public here on the Isle of Man. Welcome, Anson. How are you doing?
Good in you. Thanks for having me, Victor.
Why Isle of Man?
Well, the Isle of Man is a small island that is extremely safe and has a brilliant work-life balance. For someone that has a family, it is an ideal place to raise your children. And if you love the outdoors, it's a spectacular place to be.
So you came from a family of legal practitioner. Was law in your DNA or something?
Yes, my dad was a lawyer in South Africa. And that's where the bug bit me, basically. And then I went on to study law. And for a certain amount of time, I practiced with my dad. But for most of it, I was out on my own in Bloemfontein. We lived in two different areas. But it was always good to have my dad there. And he was a specialist in insolvency law. So always a good soundboard to have to speak to.
So if it was not law, what other profession would you have chosen?
Well, if it wasn't law, it would have been something with animals.
Animals. Tell me about it.
So I've always had a passion for animals. And at one stage, I considered becoming a vet.
Okay.
But
so I guess you have dogs, you have cats, you have everything.
Yes. We've got a cat now. But back in South Africa, where we had a bigger garden, we had dogs, cats, fish, you name it, it was there.
Yeah.
But the law was a one in the end.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yes.
Tell me about your background.
So I started as a lawyer in South Africa. After that, I moved over to become an advocate in South Africa. And then moved on to serve on the judiciary for a bit before we relocated to the Isle of Man, where I've gone back to being a legal practitioner and just generally advising on immigration law, drafting wills, and attending to international probates.
So tell me about your interest in trust law and estate planning.
So, Victor, it's a funny thing. It's as if the estates portion of the law has always kind of drawn itself to me or drawn me to it. I started in it as an article clerk when I began my legal career, and then kind of moved away from it to litigation, and then somehow ended up back in it in some of the practices that I worked in South Africa. And as well as when I worked for the bank, I was the estates manager for one of the banks in South Africa. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to move away from it again when I came to the island, working primarily in immigration law. And lo and behold, I was back in estate law, doing the probates and the wills on the island. So I don't know. I think there's something in my blood that just attracts me to estates and probates.
Okay, so for estate law, of what benefit will it be maybe to me or someone who will be interested in it?
So many people underestimate it, Victor, especially the power of a will. Especially on the Isle of Man, you see most clients have assets scattered all around the world, and in many instances, the laws in all the jurisdictions differ. The way of obtaining a grant of probate differs, and people don't realize that those assets are stuck until you have the tool that you can claim them or use them. And we generally advise clients that in every jurisdiction where you have assets, do a separate will. It just facilitates the process and makes your life or your beneficiaries' lives so much easier.
Okay, so if I have estates across the globe, for example, maybe across 6 continents, I will need to engage you, right?
Well, you don't
manage all this for me or advise me on how to go about it to avoid issue. Maybe tomorrow when I'm no longer there and somebody will be there there will be a document to guide us in the processes or what?
Yes. So what we do is we would advise you on the areas where we are qualified, being the Isle of Man. At our firm, we have qualified solicitors. I'm South African qualified, so I can advise on the Isle of Man portion and the South African portion, whereas some of my colleagues can advise on the UK portion of it. And if you had assets in an area like, let's say China, for example, we would liaise with your lawyer in China to make sure that the documents that are drafted there and the documents we've drafted here speak to one another and don't work against one another.
So you were acting magistrate in South Africa before you left?
Yes.
And
that was an amazing experience. It taught you to look at life a bit differently. I mean, I was on both sides of the bench, literally. I was the advocate.
That was a good experience anyway.
It was brilliant. I was the advocate fighting for my clients on the one side, and then thereafter I was on the other side of the bench listening to them.
Were you appointed or what happened?
Yes. So I was appointed as an acting magistrate.
So what made you to leave?
The island. The opportunity of coming here.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
Amazing. Tell me about your experience.
Which one?
As a magistrate, acting magistrate.
It was enlightening, to say the least. When I practiced as an advocate, I just did civil litigation, and as a acting magistrate, I started in the civil courts, moved over to the children courts, spent some time in the domestic violence courts, and then ended my stint in the criminal courts.
Wow.
Yes. So I literally touched on all the branches that there were. And I must say, I quite enjoyed the criminal courts. It's a lot more, I don't even know how to describe it. It just moves a lot faster than the civil courts, and there's a lot more aspects to take into account. I mean, I heard matters from drug-related matters to illegal immigrant matters, all in one setting. And it was very interesting.
Yeah. And so the island made you to leave the acting magistrate work, right?
Yes.
And when you came in here, how was it like the first week?
I was in a small town. Well, it's not that small anymore, but it is still, in comparison, regarded as a small town in South Africa. I'm from Bloemfontein.
Okay, Bloemfontein.
Yeah.
Okay. So compared to the Isle of Man, it's quite opposite.
The Isle of Man is still smaller than Bloemfontein was, but it is a lot similar. The temperature is also quite similar, except for the fact that in Bloemfontein you have extreme hot summers, but you also have extreme cold winters. Yeah, you have the moderate summer. And
yes, a moderate summer.
Yes, and
by fall sun, yeah. And your first week was like what?
It was...
Were there a shock or something?
It wasn't shock. I think it was a lot of awe. I was in awe of a lot of things. A lot of strange concepts, like a postal system that works. I still today can't believe it.
Yes.
So small things that you had taken for granted, and now you kind of see it works. So there was a lot of awe in the first week, and still is. I mean, if I drive home in the afternoon, I drive down the prom, and I look at the ocean and the views.
The ocean,
just
views. And you don't know where they're here anyway?
None. You don't worry whether your car door's locked.
Yeah. And what was your concern before moving to the island?
I think it was the general worries. Am I going to fit in? Am I going to succeed at my job? Am I going to struggle with the kids? Are the kids going to struggle to make new friends? Just the general life things. I mean, where I came from, I lived in Bloemfontein my whole life. So I didn't even go live in different cities in South Africa. I grew up in Bloemfontein. I went to university in Bloemfontein. I worked in Bloemfontein.
Oh, wow. Bloemfontein everywhere.
And then I moved 13,000 kilometers away to a new country where I knew just about no one. So it was a big move, but it was a good move.
And a big move for Bloemfontein to the Isle of Man. What was your first impression?
The day we landed here, it was grey and it was storming. And I thought, oh my goodness. But we were greeted by friendly people. We went to the place that we then rented, and it was just, everything felt fresh and welcoming.
As a legal practitioner in South Africa and here on the Isle of Man, what was the difference?
Oh, there are so many. From the forms and the processes. And fortunately, a lot of the basic laws or bases of the laws are quite similar. It's terminology that differs. It's like, where you have the normal court, and then you have the court or a subdivision of the court, which is the probate registry. Where in South Africa, you've got defined courts. Your probate is handled by the master's office in South Africa, which is even though there's quite a bit of difference, there's still a lot of similarity between the two jurisdictions.
Okay, what are the major similarities?
The fact that it's a grant of probate and a letter of executorship, for example, that you have to apply for both. And oddly enough, the supporting documents for both in both jurisdictions are pretty much the same. The way that they then issue you authorization is pretty much the same. So your manner of inheritance is also quite similar to the mode in South Africa, which is familiar. It puts you to rest.
Yeah, so we have those who say that, okay, when you come to the island slow you down.
It does. It's something to get used to. The shops don't open at the crack of dawn, and they close by the very early work. So it's something to get used to. Whereas in South Africa, if the kids forgot to tell you last night that they need something for school, there is a place open.
Yes, now walking. So yeah, that's true.
But it's something you get used to.
Yes, of course. Yeah, you get used to it.
And it's part of your work-life balance.
Does this apply to the law as well? That the legal system here on the island and the legal system in South Africa, would you say one is faster, one is slower?
No, because it goes about your court administration, and the process is set in the laws. So each jurisdiction has their own set framework within which they operate, and they are pretty even, if I can put it that way, in speed of processing.
Of processes, yeah. Yeah. So if I'm a South African, graduated with, maybe I have a law background from South Africa, I can just move in and start working as a lawyer, or do I need to acquire more certification? I need to go back to school to acquire more degrees.
That's the catch-22. So
is it the same thing?
It's not completely the same thing. So there are restrictions on a law or a law graduate that wants to come and practice here. You can only register as a legal practitioner. You can't be admitted as an advocate. So an advocate in the Isle of Man is basically your full-blown, he can go to court, he can do everything like your lawyer or your advocate in South Africa would have been. But as a legal practitioner, you are allowed to work in a law firm and to advise on matters, but that is about as far as you can go. Whereas if you were to want to practice as a full-blown lawyer, or advocate as they call them here, you have to pass the Manx bar exam.
Okay, you need to pass the Manx. Okay. So you advise people on relocating to Isle of Man. You advise
immigration.
On immigration. What are the common mistakes that people make?
Oh, it varies. It's proving their relationships, to completing the wrong visa applications, to not having the correct supporting documents or not having it in the correct format. So the immigration laws specify what you need to prove for each route that you want to follow here. People don't always know it. And the Isle of Man's immigration laws aren't the same as the UK immigration laws. They closely resemble one another, but there are some differences that people don't realize, and then they comply with the UK requirements, but not the Isle of Man requirements, and those can all lead to difficulties.
Can this be checkmates even before they leave their home countries?
Yes. If you make use of a professional qualified person or firm to assist you with it, they would generally check it for you and make sure that you're complying with the right set of rules and that you have all the correct documents and information that you need.
Okay, so tell us more about you have your family here. How many kids you have?
2 kids.
You have 2 kids, and you moved in here when?
Almost 3 years ago.
Almost 3 years ago now. What has been your experience, especially as a family man here on the island?
It is idyllic. I don't have to stress about my kids. The kids have adapted so quickly and moved into their own circles, and they are even though the schooling is quite different and the manner of living is a lot different. I mean, they've got so much freedom. They take the bus from school in the afternoons. They on their own.
Yeah.
They go
Emphasize on that.
Yes, and they go into town by themselves. Most people would think it's a silly example, but I mean, my daughter sometimes comes to me in the middle of the night, like 10 o'clock at night. She's like, Dad, I want to make cookies. And then she's like, I'm just going to Spar to go and get the ingredients. And she walks 10 o'clock at night all by herself down to Spar, goes and gets the ingredients and comes home without me even worrying about it. So it really is a different experience.
So we have those who are moving to the island and they have properties outside the island where they are, maybe their home countries, and maybe they would like to move those properties here by way of investment or something. What advice will you have for such people who already have an asset or business outside the country and they would like to move down here to the island? What will you advise?
Be careful of having assets in a different country if you don't have someone that can assist you in that country. Enforcing legal obligations in your home country while you sit this side can either be very difficult or very time consuming. But it's for each person to decide whether they keep the asset or whether they're going to liquidate the assets and then rather use those funds to start up or set up on this side. It's a difficult choice for many people to make.
So from your experience, what kind of people strive here in the island?
People that can make a plan when it doesn't go according to plan. You get many people that move over.
People who can make plan when it doesn't go as planned.
Yes. Okay. Because you get people that move over and then they think it's going to be an easier life.
Yeah.
It's going to be sunshine and roses the whole day. And they don't realize that you all of a sudden don't have the support system that you're accustomed to. If a kid phones you or a school phones you and says your kid is sick, you can't phone the nanny or the grandma and say, go fetch your child.
It's going to do that for me. Yeah.
Yes. So people don't realize the gravity of that. And then they are quick to say, this isn't working out. This isn't as great as I imagined it would be. But they lose perspective of the fact that you don't have to lock your door at night. You don't have to worry about your child coming home on their own from school. So there's a lot of things that people lose sight of, but most people who make it are the ones that have moved over with determination to make it.
Yeah, so what you are simply saying is that, okay, you have come into the island, you need to be very, very flexible. You must also be sure that you're going to make 360 degrees, of your plans. Because I think the same thing applies to me when I was coming. We had this mindset, of course, I did my research, but that was a mindset. Very, very strong and positive. And when I came in, within a few months, I discovered that, okay, there'll be a need for me to be flexible with my dreams, my plans and goals. And I was able to do, not 360 degree anyway, but I was able to make changes, which is very important. That when you are relocating, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah, that's one. Number two, as a leader, you also need to be very, very flexible. You need to be very, very strategic in your thinking.
Yes.
You need to see how your business, your ideas, your dreams, plans, and goals align with the community, the countries or the location where you are moving to. So I totally agree with you. What will you say that the island has given to you and your family since you moved in? That, if I was in South Africa, it would be like this. But now that I moved to this island, this one thing I've gained from the island since I moved in here.
Independence. Especially for my children. It has granted them independence that they wouldn't have had back in South Africa. And the growth that comes with that independence is phenomenal. It's something that my mom also always mentions when I speak to her, is the fact that the kids are so independent, have grown so much, are willing to do so many things, not necessarily on their own, but out of their own accord. And the freedom they have to actually follow those ideas or plans is just magnificent.
So what advice you have for someone who is planning to move to the island?
Make sure that you are ready to face whatever comes your way and to make a plan to get around it. It's not the easiest life, but it's a rewarding life. People from South Africa, the majority of them will have a domestic that helps them at their house
Yes.
So, the first morning you have to take a mop and mop your own floors.
Mop your own floor yourself. Yeah.
It gets to people. It's one of the smallest things on earth.
It was a major concern for me anyway, because I have mates around me that can call, do this for me, do that for me. But fortunately, you gotta do some things yourself, and
it's a small sacrifice for
for the few life you can live, you can live in. Yeah. That's why I totally agree with you on that. So we have a very huge community of South Africans here in the Isle of Man and some other nationality. Have we thought about we having a platform where the immigrants and some of them are already citizens already, where we can have a platform, a yearly get together or a conference or a colloquium where we talk about issues or festival or something? You see that's a very good idea or something we should do? Because we are not integrating enough. We see each other who act like eyes. Yeah, you see each other. Sometimes we don't even want to greet, and you see someone who looks like you and so always from the same region with you, but
I know that some of the communities do have started to have little informal festivals and get-togethers, especially the communities that have got large numbers of people here already. Every year there's a SAFA festival that is arranged for the South Africans, but it's not exclusively for South Africans. It's just to celebrate the South African heritage, but everyone's welcome to it and invited to it. And I know that some of the other communities also have little festivals or get-togethers that they arrange annually, which I think is a brilliant thing. It allows people to have a day where they celebrate their heritage, and it allows other people to experience that, which I think is good, especially in a country like this where there are so many different nationalities that live together every day.
So talk about the cost of living here.
Cost of living, it is, I almost want to say it is what it is. It's where we chose to be. It's not horrific. I mean, you learn to manage your cost of living, but it's not so much different than what you would have paid where you come from. Well, it also depends where you come from. But I mean, we had a discussion last night about a pie that in South Africa now costs 70 Rand for a single pie.
70 Rand?
Yes. We almost had a heart attack. I mean, a takeaway cappuccino is £2. In South Africa, it's 50 Rand. So the cost of living here is not so different than the cost of living anywhere else.
So what advice you have for the government as we round up?
For the government?
Yes.
Just to carry on doing what they are doing. The government here works, the systems here work, and to see how they can just improve the services that they are.
And for the immigrants?
For the immigrants, to support them in any way that they can. Most immigrants that move here don't know the laws, don't know the rules of the road, for example. I've seen that a lot. Maybe just have an easier way for people moving here to know what the basics are. Because it's not always as easy to find the information that you may require as a new entrant into the country.
Thank you very much, Francois, for coming.
Thanks for sharing.
You.
Thank you.
It is Unpacking the Isle of Man, a podcast that talk about our people, life, culture, about the island, and the podcast also promotes relocation for people to find this place as a home. Thank you for this episode. We look forward for another episode. My name is Victor Walsh. God bless you.